UFC Fight Night, Edmonton Moreno versus Amir Albazi just ended, and this is going to be my full card post-fight. We're going to discuss every single fight on the card from top to bottom, and this card really delivered. This was the best card of 2020. I'm kidding. This was an okay card. It was really kind of horrible. The main event really actually saved the card, and the main event wasn't even that crazy good. But let's jump right into it, okay? Let's start off with Jamie Lynn Horth versus Ivana Petrović. Jamie Lynn Horth wins via decision. I believe it was unanimous. No, it was split decision, but one judge gave Jamie Lynn Horth 30-27. I'm just curious, does anyone know if Jamie Lynn Horth is Muslim, and is Edmonton in Abu Dhabi or in the Middle East anywhere? Because as you guys know, bad judging only happens on cards for Muslim fighters in the Middle East. So I'm kind of scratching my head at that, but I'm pretty sure Edmonton is in Canada, and I'm pretty sure Jamie Lynn Horth is not Muslim. I know people are going to say, oh, well, she's Canadian. I'm pretty sure she's Canadian. Either way, she gets it done. Horrible decision, 30-27. Could she have won 29-28? It's possible. First round, Petrović out-grappled her basically the entire round. Second round was kind of sloppy. Petrović, out-grappled her a little bit there, and it was kind of even on the feet. And then third round, Petrović had a takedown or two, if I'm not mistaken. Towards the end of the round, Jamie Lynn Horth shot a takedown, basically got shucked off and ended up kind of mounted, seated against the fence. I thought you could have gave Petrović all three rounds. I definitely gave her rounds 1 and 2. But somehow the judges say, oh, Jamie Lynn Horth wins. So Jamie Lynn Horth gets it done. Not really much to break down about this fight. I don't even know why we're watching these women. And when I say these women, I mean specifically these two women. This was a horrible fight. These two should be ashamed of themselves. And I really did not enjoy this fight at all. Next fight on the card, we have Chad Anheliger versus Cody Gibson. Chad Anheliger got absolutely mauled. Basically got taken down right away, destroyed, beat up on the ground. Second round, he gave up his back, body triangle. He was full mounted at one point with the body triangle. Cody Gibson was doing a lot of damage, but he kept kind of fishing for the arm triangle that he never could find. And I think the first round I had it 10-9, but it was borderline 10-8. Second round was definitely a 10-8 in my opinion. Then third round, Anheliger started to have some success on the feet, but then Gibson would get him down. And I think a couple times in the third round, Anheliger scrambled back up, but then Gibson would get in on a takedown. And at one point, it was almost like Gibson was kind of dragging him down on top of him. And Anheliger tried to go down in the top position, and Gibson just reversed him and ended up on top again. Chad Anheliger just had nothing for the grappling of Cody Gibson, and Cody Gibson definitely had the better gas tank. Cody Gibson just absolutely mauled him in this fight. Chad Anheliger had nothing to offer other than like a couple strikes. He landed a couple really good strikes in that third round where it seemed like, oh, he might get some momentum going. He, caught him on the chin with a couple shots, but boom. Gibson in on the takedown, easy takedown, dominant control. Anheliger, I don't even know what to say about this fight. Cody Gibson mauled him. Next fight on the card, Sidey versus Garrett Armfield. This is another questionable decision. Sidey gets it done via split decision. I think that this fight, I wasn't paying super close attention to the second round, okay? And the second round was really the deciding round. First round, Sidey had the first round, landing good shots. At one point, almost had an anaconda choke. That was pretty close, but obviously he didn't get it. And he was landing the better shots on the feet, landing good knees. Second round was the deciding round. So I went back and rewatched it because at first I thought Garrett Armfield probably won the second round. Rewatching it, I thought Garrett Armfield definitely threw a lot more, and Sidey was definitely wearing more damage on his face, but realistically, Armfield was landing at a lot of arm shots. So when in real time, I scored it for Garrett Armfield, and then the third round I had for Garrett Armfield. He was able to initiate the grappling quite a bit. Sidey was able to scramble back up a couple times and get taken back down. And at one point, I believe Garrett Armfield had him mounted for like a second in the third round, if I'm not mistaken. This card felt like it dragged on forever. So forgive me if I'm a little bit wrong on that. But yeah, Garrett Armfield, it just seemed like he had the better gas tank in the third round and landed some good shots on the feet and was able to get takedowns. It was like he was spamming takedowns in the third round. I thought he won the third round. So it really came down to the second round. Real time, I scored it for Garrett Armfield. Looking back, it could have went either way, to be quite honest. I didn't really... Rewatching it, I didn't really feel like good about saying, oh, this guy definitely won or that guy won. But I will say Sidey landed a lot on the guard, or Garrett Armfield landed a lot on Sidey's guard. So it wasn't like a horrible robber or anything. Sidey gets it done via split decision. Looked good, in close. he would be like striking almost in clinch range, landing really good knees to the body. Armfield definitely had the grappling advantage, but Sidey was really good at scrambling. Even in the third round, he was exhausted. He was scrambling out of bad positions, and then Armfield would get another takedown. And I think in the first round, Armfield survived that anaconda and got like a takedown on him, and then Sidey scrambled to end up getting the top position before they ended up back on the feet. So good fight, back and forth fight. Both guys, you know, took their fair share of damage in this fight, but it could have went either way. Series Sidey gets it done via split decision. Next fight on the card, Alexander Romanov versus Rodrigo Nascimento. Sometimes I question why I watch this sport. I mean, Alexander Romanov, you're telling me that's a professional athlete? If that's a professional athlete, I have a better body than a professional athlete. He literally looks like a bag of milk. He has worse cardio than potentially anybody on the entire roster. So he ragdolled Nascimento in the first round, couldn't find a submission. Most of the time, Nascimento was like on his knee, but finally cemented the position. Didn't do a whole lot of damage. Was looking to set up some submissions. After that, from the end of the first round on, Romanov was like hunched over with his hands down by his hips. This gave me flashbacks to Kimbo Slice Dada 5000. Romanov looked like absolute dog shit. I swear if Nascimento could have tagged me in the second round, I finished Romanov 10 times out of 10. Okay? That's how bad he looked. I'm convinced he doesn't train. I'm convinced he just... I don't even know. I don't know what he's doing. I think he's just showing up for paychecks. And then Nascimento looked like dog shit. Nascimento lost every round. There was a low blow in the second round that gave Romanov time to recover. And the commentary team was actually like, oh, Romanov, his cardio is looking kind of good. He's not completely exhausted because he gassed out in 1 minute in the past. So him fighting in the 8th minute is crazy. What are we doing here? What do we do? Alexander Romanov should be ashamed of himself. Imagine showing up as a professional athlete, getting paid to be a professional athlete, and showing up like with the body of a professional eater. Not even that. Most professional eaters aren't even fat. I can't believe this. I mean, on the bright side, you know, people say, Joe, you're overweight. You can't talk about the fights. And I know that's a dumb argument to begin with, but let's just operate under the assumption it's true. I got a better body than one of the fighters on the roster, multiple of the fighters on the roster, to be quite honest. I'm jacked under this shirt, all right? Compared to Alexander Romanov. I don't look like a bag of milk, I'll tell you that much. So, Romanov gets it done. Nascimento should be disowned by his entire family. Embarrassing, disgusting, wasteful performance I've ever seen in my entire life. Nascimento just refused to fight in the second and third round, even though Romanov looked like he was going to keel over from a heart attack. And it wouldn't have shocked me. It was a horrible fight. So ugly, too. Such an ugly fight. I was pissed when I was watching it. Next fight on the card. Let's get to a much better fight. This is actually one of the best fights on the card. Jack Shore versus Youssef Zalal. Look, I'm not going to lie. Jack Shore was landing some good shots early. Landed a really good combination that I think ended with an uppercut. Was looking to grapple early. After Youssef Zalal was landing some leg kicks, he kind of got Zalal down to a knee at one point. And I think at the end of the first round, I think it was, I'm trying to think. Yeah, it had to be at the end of the first round. Zalal was actually able to get Jack Shore down and get a little bit of control time there. I thought the first round went to Zalal. Was close, though. Second round doesn't even last that long. The fight lasted a total of 6 minutes. So in 1 minute into the second round, Zalal steps forward with a nasty knee, hurts Jack Shore, drops him, jumps on top of him, and finds an arm triangle. Great win from Youssef Zalal. I remember watching fight tape from him, you know, before he made his return to the UFC. He's fighting in the Kentucky State Fair, but he looked good, man. He was beating the brakes off of some of these guys. I'm like, you know what? The level of opposition is horrible. They're fighting over funnel cakes, but Youssef Zalal looks much improved. And he proved that against Jack Shore. Jack Shore is a highly skilled fighter, but I'll tell you this right now. He needs to go back down to bantamweight. He looks weak. He looks soft. And again, I know people are going to be like, Joey, who are you to say this? I don't even know why I even respond to the hypotheticals here of people commenting down in the comment section. He looks soft. He looked weak. You know, so I think he needs to get it together and go back down to bantamweight because I think he was a legit prospect of bantamweight. I think he's nothing more than kind of a chubby featherweight. And I think Zalal kind of bodied him in this fight. And I know Jack Shore had some moments, but at the end of the day, he got out-grappled. They couldn't get a takedown in the first. I mean, unless you get him down to a knee. Got taken down in the first. And then in the second gets brutalized and gets finished. Gets ragdolled and finished. Well, he really didn't get ragdolled, but he got kneed into oblivion, hurt badly, and then submitted. Youssef Zalal is a legit contender at featherweight. Not a top 10 contender just yet. I want to see him fight someone in the top 15 next. Next fight on the card, we have Charles Jourdain versus Victor Henry. First round, so first off, Charles Jourdain wins via second round guillotine. First round was kind of competitive. Victor Henry, landed some decent leg kicks. But Charles Jourdain was landing good shots and close, good knees to the body, good leg kicks, hard leg kicks himself. And he kept tripping Victor Henry down, landing some shots, and also looking for a guillotine as he tried to get up. Didn't really come super close to any of them in the first round. But then in the second round, Victor Henry got Charles Jourdain down. And eventually Charles Jourdain scrambled out of that position. He had his back taken by Victor Henry. It wasn't looking good. He had the body triangle. I think even at one point Victor Henry might have had a full mount. And Charles Jourdain eventually scrambles out, and he's on his back with Victor Henry in his full guard. And he keeps kind of fishing for the guillotine, but it's you're not going to get it from this position. Well, eventually Henry's kind of postured up a little bit, and Charles Jourdain, he does it lightning fast. He jumps to his feet, and as Victor Henry tries to close the distance, trying to keep him down, Charles Jourdain just locks up a guillotine and submits him, man. Jourdain looked really good in this fight. I know it's Victor Henry. He's not that great. He kind of, a lot of people overhyped him for a couple of performances. But Jourdain looked really good in this fight. He was looking for that submission all night long. There was a couple times he came close. And once he got that, it was tight, man. Victor Henry went to the ground, and he started tapping immediately. Not as quick as Khamzat Chimaev brutalized Robert Whittaker, but still pretty impressive. And he was fishing for that submission all night. Good win from Charles Jourdain. Next fight on the card, Aiemann Zahabi versus Pedro Munhoz. This was actually a disappointing fight. It wasn't a bad fight, but it was a disappointing fight. Aiemann Zahabi won via decision. First round was the only real competitive round. There was a few leg kicks from Pedro Munhoz. Landed some okay shots. There was a head kick from Zahabi, but Zahabi was kind of inactive, just circling around. I thought maybe you could give Munhoz the first round, but I wouldn't say it was crazy if you gave it to Zahabi. And then basically after that, Zahabi took over second and third. You had Pedro Munhoz. He stopped throwing leg kicks. I want to say, I'm trying to remember. I can't remember if it was in the first or second. But Munhoz, I think it was in the first. Because I think in the second, Munhoz just abandoned leg kicks. There was 2 hard leg kicks in the first. And Zahabi stumbled a little bit. And I'm oh, Munhoz needs to go back to that. He loves the calf kicks. Nope, he just doesn't throw them. So this entire fight was Zahabi circling and circling and circling and circling and circling. And Munhoz was just throwing punches at his guard. And then Zahabi would counter, land some good shots, busted up his eye a bit. I want to say actually it was the second round that he landed the leg kicks that actually caused a little bit of an impact where he kind of stumbled a little bit. I'm not saying he was going to get a finish or anything, but you've seen Zahabi kind of have a reaction to a nasty calf kick. And then Munhoz never even followed up. It was just Munhoz hitting the guard. Just chasing him down, following the guard. Zahabi's jabbing him up, then throwing a big right hand, smashing his eyeball. And that was the same for the third. Munhoz just pressuring and hitting the guard. And Zahabi was landing the more impactful shots and pumping the jab. Munhoz is washed. I'm going to be honest, I think he's washed. He made Kyler Phillips look better than he actually is in his last fight before this. And Munhoz, it's crazy. At one point, I thought he was criminally underrated. I picked him in this fight. And Zahabi, I don't think Zahabi's even that good. He's kind of plotty. He's heavy on the lead leg. I don't understand how Munhoz wasn't absolutely abusing it, considering he has some of the best leg kicks. It's what are these? I guess these guys get tired of throwing leg kicks. Jose Aldo gets criticized for it all the time. He doesn't throw leg kicks as much as he used to. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's damage. Maybe it's hurtful for them. But yeah, Zahabi gets it done via unanimous decision. Next fight on the card. First fight on the main card. Another garbage fight. Mike Malott versus Trevin Giles. This was one of the most boring fights I've ever seen in my entire life. Basically, first round, Malott ate some jabs, was bleeding a little bit in the first round. And I don't even remember. It was so boring, man. I think there were some good kicks from Malott. He landed some low kicks. I thought maybe Malott probably stole it, had some decent kicks. And then basically that was the rest of the fight, but just a little bit more in favor of Malott. Giles wasn't doing anything. The second round, the last minute, Malott kind of got aggressive. It's like, he knew the round was close and wanted to make sure he won the round. And then the third round was more of the same. Giles just kind of staring across from him, Malott throwing kicks. And Malott comes out at the the post-fight interview and is like, yeah, I just wanted to get a win here. Just wanted to get a win. It was I'll never look at Malott the same ever since he got exposed badly by Neil Magny. But, man, to put on this type of stinker against Trevin Giles, you're set up for victory here. You're set up for victory. Didn't really mix in the grappling at all. And, Mike Malott gets it done via unanimous decision. Next fight on the card, Marc-Andre Barriault versus Dustin Stoltzfus. I think it was a kick early, or like he threw a kick and then tripped, and Stoltzfus jumped on top Barriault. And Barriault is just like getting smothered, right? Stoltzfus is controlling him. And it's looking like it's going to be boring. Stoltzfus isn't really doing any damage. Barriault really isn't getting up. And I'm like, oh my goodness, another boring-ass round, a boring-ass fight. And this card was like dragging on. I was like, what's going on here? And then Stoltzfus gets into the full mount. And Barriault puts his feet on the fence, kicks off of it, Glover Teixeira, Yuri Prohaska, 5th round style. And Marc-Andre Barriault gets up. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to go for the finish now. It's almost the end of the first round. I'm going to start slugging it out. I'm back on my feet with a vengeance. And he starts slugging it out. And he's getting the worst of the exchanges. He eats a nasty right hand. He goes down, and nasty hammer fist just completely puts him out. Max Holloway, Ilia Topuria style. We found out on November 2nd that Dustin Stoltzfus could brutally KO Marc-Andre Barriault. Good win from Stoltzfus. It ended up actually being exciting. But, man, that's 2 bad knockouts in a row for Marc-Andre Barriault, if I'm not mistaken. I think his last fight was against Joe Pyfer. Got brutalized against Stoltzfus, brutalized against Pyfer. Pyfer put him face down, ass up. Stoltzfus literally KO'd him almost exactly like Topuria KO'd Max, but instead of a left hand, it was a right hand. So, good win from Stoltzfus. How good is Abus Magomedov is what I want to know, because he starched out Stoltzfus. I'm kidding. I say that satirically. But, yeah, good win from Dustin Stoltzfus on the main card. I believe Mike Malott, Trevin Giles fight opened up the main card, but good win from Stoltzfus, nasty KO, and probably the most memorable performance on the card outside the main event. Next fight on the card, we have Irene de Silva versus Jasmine Jourdain. Oh, God. This was an okay fight, to be honest. I think I'm being a little bit overly critical. De Silva was winning on the feet early, lands a head kick late. She was piecing her up the entire round, lands a head kick late, gets taken down, a little bit of ground and pound, but it was already the end of the round. De Silva clearly won the first round. Second round, Jasmine Jourdain just comes out, gets a takedown, controls her the entire round, gets her in the crucifix, starts beating her up, landing elbows, busting her up, and De Silva has nothing to offer, absolutely nothing to offer off the ground. She can't get up, she can't get to a hip, she can't get back to full guard. She's just like chilling there half the time in 3/4 mount, eating shots, ended up in the crucifix, and I don't know, man. De Silva looked horrible, and then she survives the second round. She's getting smashed by the end of the second round. And third round, Jasmine Jourdain comes out, shoots like 2 takedowns, gets stuffed. I don't know, I got a hair in my face here. Luckily, it's in the middle of this I'm just kidding. I was going to say horrible fight, but this wasn't that bad. But she stuffs off a couple takedowns. She's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go after her with my striking now. Gets taken down. And Jasmine Jourdain finds a Darce choke in the third round. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what to say about this fight. I thought De Silva was getting better. Her grappling's always been kind of shitty. I thought she could win this fight. She gets submitted in the third round. Good finish for Jasmine Jourdain. She was hunting for the finish the entire time. So, I don't know what to say. Good for her. And the fight finished. The second and third round honestly weren't bad. I'm being a little bit over-exaggeratory just because the card overall disappointed. But Jasmine Jourdain gets it done and finishes her. Goes for the finish in the third round, even though she knows she's going to win with the grappling. She locks up that Darce choke. Next fight on the card, Caio Machado versus Brenson Ribeiro. Split decision win for Ribeiro. I thought Ribeiro won all 3 rounds, to be honest. He was landing the cleaner shots. Just every round, it was like a couple big punches, right hand that would snap his head back. Machado was landing some good kicks. But it's just every round. It was just every round that I just thought Ribeiro landed the bigger shots and snapping his head back. It was mainly right hands. Ribeiro wasn't cutting him off well enough. He was really just following him, because when he did cut him off and back him up to the fence, that's when he would land his big shots. I'm shocked he wasn't able to find a finish. The third round was actually crazy, Both guys were landing. Both guys were kind of getting hurt a little bit. I thought Ribeiro hurt him a little bit more. And that round came closer to finishing, even though neither guy was really close to finishing. So I had all 3 rounds. It somehow was a split decision. I thought bare minimum, I'm trying to remember. I think it was the second round that I thought maybe you could give them Machado. I think it was the second round. But outside of that, I thought the third and first were pretty clear for Ribeiro. First round, definitely. Overall, disappointing fight. I thought this was definitely going to be a finish. But you know what? Caio Machado actually looked good at light heavyweight in terms of, his body type and everything like that. And he didn't look super slow. Again, this wasn't a great performance. But what I'm saying, compared to heavyweight, where he looked kind of like that bag of milk type build like Romanov, he looked in great shape for the light heavyweight division. So maybe he's just becoming accustomed to the speed difference down there and the skill difference down there. But yeah, Brenson Ribeiro gets it done via split decision. And he drops to his knees. And he gets the win. Next fight on the card, co-main event, finally. Co-main event, Erin Blanchfield versus Rose Namajunas. Very, very interesting fight. This fight wasn't particularly great, but it was interesting. So this was a 5-round co-main event. It was a big fight in the women's flyweight division. And Rose Namajunas pulls out ahead. She's pumping the jab. She's stuffing the takedowns. I think even in the second round, she had a hip toss. Rose got a hip toss. Erin Blanchfield clinched up. Rose took her down, but then lets her right back up because Rose wants to strike. And it's looking good for Rose. First round was close, though, because Rose didn't have a lot of output. Erin was kind of being active in the last minute. So I thought the first round could have went either way, but I was pretty confidently going with Rose. Second round was clearly Rose. Third round, Erin really starts pushing the pace. She knows, okay, I probably lost the first 2 rounds. If I lose the third round, I need to finish. I'm probably not going to get a finish against Rose Namajunas. Third round, she starts getting aggressive. She's landing good shots. She's putting the pressure on Rose Namajunas. Rose fails a takedown attempt because of the pressure, ends up on bottom. Blanchfield controls her, beats her up. The ref's kind of saying, oh, you got to do a little bit more, and Erin Blanchfield's throwing a decent amount of ground and pound. Nothing crazy, never came close to a finish. Fourth round, it was kind of, fourth round honestly could have ended up being like a robbery round for Rose. It was close. But in the fourth round, I thought Blanchfield landed a little bit cleaner shots and then had clinch control and landed some shots in the clinch. And Rose was starting to slow down a bit and get controlled against the fence for like 20 seconds here, 15 seconds there. Erin Blanchfield wasn't able to find a takedown. But still, in a close round, I was like, okay, you definitely have to go Blanchfield. So I had round 4 for Blanchfield as well. And then round 5, Blanchfield went out there and was like, you know what, I'm taking this round. It's 2-2 heading into the 5th. She went out there and put the pressure on Rose, was busting her up on the feet. Rose shoots another takedown and ends up on bottom again and gets beat up again, sealing the round for Erin Blanchfield. So I had 3, 4, and 5 for Erin Blanchfield. I always love those types of 5-round fights, even though this fight wasn't particularly eventful. But to lose the first 2 rounds, Ngannou, Ciryl, and then come back and win in 3, 4, and 5 is pretty amazing. And this was a big fight for Blanchfield because she loses to Rose. Now she lost to Manafort and then loses to Rose. She's kind of looking like, okay, well, where do I go from here? So good for her coming back in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round. Wasn't that eventful of a fight. I think Rose is kind of washed up. She looks slow. The stamina isn't what it used to be. I think she's kind of pudgy for the weight class. I think she's getting out-muscled by somebody like Erin Blanchfield. And I think the worst decision you can ever make is, oh, you know what? I got Trevor Whitman in my corner. Let me trade him in for Pat Barry as my head coach and cornerman. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, 5 minutes and then you got this. Like acting like she has the fight in the bag. Pat Barry is one of the worst coaches and trainers I have ever seen in this sport. He cost Rose the title. He cost her this fight. She shouldn't be at flyweight. She should be back down at strawweight where she can actually be competitive. And I know she's competitive at flyweight. I know. But the thing is, even if you're equally as skilled, if you're out-muscled and outsized, you are going to lose. So I think it cost her in this fight. My guess is Pat Barry and her might claim robbery. Maybe privately. They're not really the type to come out and say, yeah, we definitely won. I seen live when I'm watching this fight, I seen Macy Barber tweeting out, Rose is cooking her. At no point was Rose dominating this fight, but it looked like she was really pulling out ahead just with leg kicks and jabs. But Blanchfield, once she really started to put the pressure on Rose, Rose was one shooting takedowns, which is crazy. And that's what caused her both times to end up getting out-grappled in those rounds. But it didn't matter anyway because Blanchfield was outstriking her in those rounds with her pressure. And her striking didn't look particularly improved, but it was effective. That's all that mattered. So Erin Blanchfield gets it done. I agree with the decision. I had it 48-47 as well. Next fight on the card, the main event, Brandon Moreno versus Amir Albazi. Moreno beat him from start to finish. In retrospect, see, I thought Amir Albazi would be able to get in good grappling positions on the ground. He's strong, and then Brandon Moreno, in the past, especially against Pantoja, would basically, that's how he lost fights, with losing positional control on the ground, giving up his back. Man, there was barely any grappling in this fight. Amir Albazi barely tried to grapple, and he got boxed up on the feet. Had a couple good leg kicks, but I mean, this fight he basically got blown out. He quit after the second round, it felt like. Moreno landed a couple good shots throughout the first round. Hurt him once in the first round, kind of stumbled him. Round wasn't like a blowout for Moreno, but he clearly won. Then the second round, Albazi got one takedown, no control time off of it. There was a head kick that wobbled Albazi in the second round. Moreno was just boxing him up. And then third, fourth, and fifth was just Moreno boxing him up, and Albazi just standing there. And it go back to his corner, and his corner be like, you got to be more active. And then he'd go back out and just stand there like a deer in the headlights and get boxed up again. Fifth round, Moreno fought like Albazi should have been fighting. And in retrospect, and I was talking about this on my live stream, you know what? Brandon Moreno is the uncrowned champ. I thought he beat Pantoja in the title fight, and I thought it was razor close. I thought you could have given the decision against Royval. So in retrospect, I should have been like, you know what? Moreno's the uncrowned champ. I'm picking Moreno. I just thought Albazi, even though I thought it was very close against Kai Kara France, I thought, you know what? I think he's going to mix in the grappling. He shot 2 takedowns. He got one of them. Moreno jumped back up. And then he said, you know what? I'm just going to stand here and get beat up. Didn't even try. His energy didn't seem like gassed. He just seemed demoralized from getting beat up. I think it was in the third round. There was a left hand that caught him right on the eye, and I thought it was going to be like a Figgy situation. I think the fourth Figgy fight. But he survived that. He was able to survive that onslaught. There was an eye poke, I think, in the fourth round. Albazi eye poked Moreno as he's rushing in. It was crazy, though. Moreno was beating his ass from start to finish and was looking for a finish in the fifth round. Heard him multiple times in the fifth round. Was walking him down in the fifth round. Was getting crazy sloppy. But the majority of this fight was Moreno kind of shelling up in front of him, and then he would explode with good combinations. And Albazi would just stand there. Albazi didn't even throw anything like hard to look for a finish. He landed like one good punch this entire fight. And then shot 2. I think he might have shot more than 2 takedowns. Does it say here? It says he got 1 takedown of 4. So probably something like that. I think he might have shot 1 in the fifth round, maybe. But yeah, lack of grappling from Albazi. Coming back from a long layoff. Recipe for disaster against, the former champion Brandon Moreno. And also, you know what I did love about this fight? Brandon Moreno didn't really take any damage. I thought that was really catching up to him. The wars with Pantoja, the wars with Figgy. I was like, you know what? That's really catching up to him. He seems like, he wanted the time off. He seems like he's kind of starting to be checked out a bit. He's fighting Albazi, who has really good grappling, really good hands as well, and decent power. And, Moreno went out there and showed that he is level. He made Albazi, I tweeted this out, he made Albazi look like he didn't even belong in there. Moreno worked him over for 5 rounds, mixing in everything, mixing in the body shots, mixing in the leg kicks, head kick that landed, and wobbled him in this fight. And looked really good defensively sound. And the grappling looked amazing. I mean, the double leg was a perfect shot from Albazi. Got him right down with ease. Brandon Moreno got right to his ass and started jumping right up. It literally, I'm surprised it even counted as a takedown. It was that quick. So Brandon Moreno's back. I don't know who I would like to see him fight next. You got, Asakura fighting for the title against Pantoja on UFC 310. Maybe you do Moreno versus Royval again for a #1 contender fight. I think the division really could use a guy named Muhammad Makayev, as a fresh contender in the division. But I'm happy to see. I'll watch Brandon Moreno fight Alessandro Pantoja 17 times. I don't care that he's already lost 3 times. It was close fights. Outside, I think, 1 where he got finished. So, great win from Brandon Moreno. Dominated Amir Albazi. I think also Albazi was a bit rusty from the time off, and he had surgeries and whatnot. But yeah, Brandon Moreno, I think, was just too much for him. The boxing looked incredible. And what I really liked was he was super defensively sound. Now, maybe it was just because it was against Albazi and not an absolute savage like Pantoja. But it was nice to see Brandon Moreno go out there, get a win, and not take a whole lot of damage. Let me know what you guys thought of UFC Edmonton. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And thank you so much for watching.